Okay, it's 6:30. I'll call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Cedarburg School Board, and as a public meeting, the public notices have been placed in the district, and additional copies were forwarded to the News Graphic and the Milwaukee Journal. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance?
It's back here, behind Ben.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no recognitions, so we'll go right to consent agenda. Todd?
Thank you. This evening, board members, we'd ask that you approve the minutes from the November 17, 2021 school board meeting, along with the budget report and register that includes a summary of accounts, clerk register, check detail, and credit card transactions, as well as the personnel report. Mr. Farner is here to give you an update.
Thank you. The first item on the personnel report this evening is one of those bittersweet moments where we're asking the board to approve another retirement of a longtime administrator for the district. Ted Knoll, after 7 years as student services director, has submitted his request to retire at the end of this year, so we'll be asking for approval, and I'm sure everyone will join me in thanking Ted for all the hard work over these last 7 years. It's been a pleasure. The more positive thing this evening is, as you know, John Coster, Director of Buildings and Grounds, had previously had his retirement approved, and we have his replacement this evening. So we've got a contract for Brian Roxma. He's been in the district actually for 10 years working for Johnson Controls, so we were really fortunate. We had a very strong pool of candidates, 23 applications. About half of those I would say were quality apps. We narrowed that down to 7 for the first round of interviews. 6 of those came to interview. One of them had to drop out for personal reasons. We whittled that down to 4 and had a second round of interviews. First round involved staff members, buildings and grounds members, administrators. Second interview team involved board representative Kevin Kennedy, was there along with other administrators and buildings and grounds administrative assistant. And so out of those 4 really strong candidates, we had the rare thing of actually the pretty much a consensus that all 4 could have done a nice job for us. Very unusual to say that. But in the end, Brian's background, familiarity with our facilities, unparalleled. Like, no one's going to know the stuff like he does because he's been working on it for 10 years already. And he also knows an awful lot of our staff. And so really nice to have him coming, joining the team. John Coster knows him well. They've been working together for a long time, so it couldn't really be a better opportunity for a smoother transition. So we're excited to present that contract this evening. And once it's approved, I'll have Brian come up here and say a few words.
So we ask the board members to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second, regretfully. Second.
I agree with you. That brings me to the, if we don't accept them, do they have to stay?
Yeah, do they have
This formal, we have to approve it, so what if we don't?
I've seen Ted get angry. I don't know if we want him around.
He said you got to worry about his wife.
Yeah, I understand that.
I've never seen Ted get mad. Maybe that'd be worth a shot.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thanks, Ted. I really appreciate all you've done, John, over the years with the district. I think you're great. Incredible to work with you.
It's been a wonderful 7 years. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for your
Absolutely.
Not hearing any other. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Your wife will be happy. We won't, but your wife will.
Congratulations, Ted. Congratulations, Brian, if you want to say a couple words.
Pressure's on, Brian.
First time.
As Conrad said, my name is Brian. Been working here for the last 10 years as a controls technician. Had my head in most of the ceilings, I've been in the basements. I've done a lot for this place. I truly love the culture. I love the staff. I've been working under John, and I've said this before, if I could be half or a quarter of what John is, we're going to be very successful. I come from a long lineage of educators. My wife is a teacher. So I really, I thank you for offering me this position, and it's not something I take lightly. I hope to do great things and be here for a very long time. Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome
You got
again.
big, and you have big shoes to fill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay with Dawn here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, Brian.
Yep.
Thank you.
Todd, Superintendent.
So this evening, we have three reports under the superintendent notes. The first one is a fairly quick one. It's an update on the start of the school year. As always, it's fun to start any presentation with images of our students. And there you see pictures of our students, their smiling faces, and engage in different activities over the last month since the last school board meeting. Just want to let everybody know that our COVID mitigation measures continue to be updated on our website. You can frequent our website and get that information. Board members, we are in a position right now of filling out our application to receive the federal ESSER dollars. And so this mitigation plan that's posted on our website is actually part of that plan that we're submitting to the federal government or the state and then eventually the feds, so we can secure the ESSER dollars to help pay for some of the mitigation measures we went through over the last year and a half. So all information on our instruction and mitigation measures are on our website. Questions about any of that, board members? Excellent. We're going to move into the next presentation, and that is an update on our building project. That's Russ Streeter from C.G. Schmidt who will provide that update. The update he's going to speak to tonight was just presented this week at our B&G meeting on Monday. So it's very similar, and it sounds similar to that presentation. Russ, you probably need.
All right, so good evening, everyone. We'll update you on the budget as it stands today. The format is very similar to what we've looked at the previous meetings. First column is the starting balance where we were back in November of 2019. The center is the previous budget update. That was way back in July of this year, so it's been a few months. And then the last column, a little different this time. Rather than being our projected costs in those columns, those are our projected final balances. So what we're trying to do here is take a look at where we think we're landing overall on the project budget. So you'll see if you compare the numbers to where we were back in July, a number of them have changed. Some of the things to point out as we go through each of those categories, a few of them are up, a few of them are under section 3.0 at the bottom of that page. That is up about $253,000 from where we were starting, but there were a couple of decisions made to add scope to the projects, upgrades in middle school and some work replacements. So those were enhancements to the project. At the bottom of the second page, that's our GMP, our hard construction costs. And you can see on that line item, we've been working kind of off the contingency that we have built into that construction. We are landing on that area of work at about $484,000 savings. So we still have that balance of contingency on that section. The next section is a low voltage. There were some upgrades that were added to that. We went quite a bit further with the fire alarm system and the paging system in some of the schools. So we did spend a significant amount more on that area of the project, as well as on section, next page, section 6.0, IT communication, district director, about $200,000 there. FF&E, up there, FF&E was a good story. We're actually about $100,000 under budget on that area. Sorry, on the last page here. And finally at the bottom, section 8.0, we did go over there by a fairly significant amount. That was driven pretty heavily by the amount of paperwork that we ended up having to do. It's sort of we have an allowance to plug in at the start of the project, and then as we move along, there's some things we learn, and in this case, we ended up So, rolling that into that last page here, we're not reporting in that gray section in the center where our remaining contingency is, because it's all baked into the numbers up above. So bottom line, we're looking at budget surplus, a little over about $191,000. So all in all, good news. Any questions?
Russ, does that include any rebates that, I know there's some items that are out there that are still yet to come our way?
Correct. There were some rebates that we got for energy efficiency that came through, and the district has already collected those. There's also some E-rate rebates that are pending. Those are still to be received. That's about $83,000.
In addition?
No, it's
baked in.
It's in these numbers.
Okay.
It's included in the numbers. It's anticipated.
Well, just to clarify, so the work, you're pretty much completely offsite unless there's a callback or something like that?
That's pretty much it, yeah. We've been working with John Coxer through remaining lists. There are some things that are still pending. We work through it, we get calls, we bring people in, address any kind of warranty issues, so.
Punch list work though is pretty well completed?
Yeah.
Good. And then how long do you typically think before this will be 100% finalized? A month from now or how much time?
I would expect that we'll probably put that final bill into the district in perhaps February.
Make sure you got all your invoices.
Right.
And everything. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Russ. The next item under Superintendent's Notes is a presentation by Casey Blow, the high school principal. Casey's here tonight to talk about the ACT testing day, March 8th here at the high school. Board members, over the last few weeks, you've received information regarding this in the superintendent update, the weekly update. Casey's just going to give you an overview and help us better understand the goal of the day and field any questions that you may have regarding the plan for March 8th. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you. So the testing day is March 8th, so as we are looking forward to that day, we've been doing some brainstorming around how can we adapt to the kind of the changing testing environment that we've inherited this year, as that's our proposal is here at. So the proposal would be that the junior class would attend and participate in the ACT testing in person on this day. All other students would attend a high-quality, asynchronous learning environment. They would not actually come to school on that day. Why would we do this? There's some changes to the assessment suite for the ACT. So in years past, the 9th and 10th graders would have taken the ACT Aspire Interim on this day. The juniors would take the ACT test, and the seniors would have gone to college visits around the state. The ACT Aspire Interim no longer exists, so there isn't a test that we can give the 9th and 10th graders that day. And a lot of the local and area universities are not accepting large campus visits from students anymore. On top of that, transportation to an event like that would be unreliable at best. I mean, we would be scrambling at the last minute to make sure that they could actually staff the buses to get us there. This is similar to the model that was utilized through the pandemic last year, and we got some really good results out of that too. So I think there's good reason to think that this will really set our juniors up for the greatest amount of success on the ACT test as well. We've shared this plan out preliminarily with the staff. I've received pretty good feedback. We'll work out some of the details about exactly what the expectations around the lessons would be, and what color day classes they would be. So some little details to kind of feather out, but largely staff thinks that this is probably the best idea that we've got to deal with these changes. So in general, we would offer pre-recorded content and access to online learning resources. This may or may not be a recording of the teacher This could be access to other digital content that they would have had access to anyway. Like I said, there would be no in-person classes on March 8th in this model. We would give teachers time on March 4th, which is an already pre-planned early release PD day on a Friday. So they would have several hours to just plan their lessons for this day. And then students would access it via either their district provided Chromebook or a personal computing device at home. The juniors would report to school that day. They would test in smaller group environments, so they'd be in a classroom as opposed to the field house or the buff or the vintage gym. They would have smaller testing groups. They would have more proctors. So just the math would say that we have about one student or one teacher to every 10 students proctoring. So more proctors per students. We'd also be able to better accommodate our students on IEPs and 504s with accommodations. Alternatively, everybody would attend school as regular. Of course, the juniors would be out of all the classes. So a lot of our classes are mixed grade levels, so there would be significant portions of our classes that wouldn't be able to really work through material because they'd be leaving so many of our juniors behind. And then we'd have to move those kids into larger testing environments and struggle to find staffing to be able to not only teach the kids that are here, but also provide the accommodations for kids that are juniors that are required by law to have them. So obviously this is a different type of a day than our stakeholders would be anticipating. So here's kind of our plan to communicate this out to make sure that everybody's kind of well aware of what's going on that day. We've got a meeting next week with the juniors where we would unveil this plan to them. Basically tell them where they would be testing and what kind of proctoring environment they could expect. We communicate through January with our newsletter as the normal protocol, sending out emails directing parents and students to read that. Continuing that same process through February. We've got another junior class. We've got 2 junior class meetings in February as well, where we reiterate the plan to them. And then in March, we really ramp it up. We do daily school announcements over the intercom. We do an all-call to our families, both of the juniors and everybody else, so that we're all reminded of what the plan is for March 8th. And I think with all that, everybody would have a clear understanding of what we're doing and why. That would lead to questions. Concerns.
When we did it last year, were they in rooms too, individual rooms, and then just like something? I like this plan. I think it really sets the tone and the appropriate tone for the juniors. And it's different when you're in a small group setting than in a large field house, when you're taking a test of that caliber. So as much as this accommodation with other students and them being out, I trust that we'll be able to continue learning and keep the flow of whatever's going on in the classroom. That would be my only concern, and what the accountability will be on those students. But I like the plan because I think it's a big test. It has a huge impact to their future. It's not like a weed out freshman college class where they take a big test in a big room and it's meant to be intense, right? Like this should be purposeful to their success. So I like the plan. I don't really have any questions, but
Thank you.
yeah.
My only question, I like the plan too, but there are so many mixed grade level classes. How is the teacher gonna handle that on the day where, the freshmen, sophomores, and seniors will be watching this class, but the juniors are missing?
So the juniors will still be able to engage in this material because it's asynchronous, so it won't be a live. You won't be watching the teacher live, so they'll be able to access the material. That's one of the questions that we need to work through yet is what are going to be the expectations of the juniors to engage in this material, being that they're going to be testing all day. There would be some time at the end of the day where we could offer guided study or some time for them to work here with support to work through some of that material. And I think it's also reasonable to say that individual teachers can decide what the expectations for the juniors are in their class, that it wouldn't have to be globally that we are or are not going to require the juniors to engage in that material.
probably easier for them to do that than to miss the in-person day and try to catch up, right? Is that kind of the thought?
Yeah, so this was not a colored day, this was not an orange or a black day, so this is any instruction that we can actually,
I got it.
any instruction that we can provide is additional instruction that the students wouldn't have received in the original schedule. So it's all just gravy for our teachers. So they're always itching to get every little bit of instruction that they can. So this is just more.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments? I just like the fact that there won't be bells going off, and there will be, but there won't be the distraction of people in hallways and everything while someone's trying to take an intense test.
Yeah, it should be like the ideal testing environment. We will turn the bells off. There will be no bells, and we can have snacks, and we'll have we can have their own personal lunch. You know, we can do a lot to make that day really comfortable and allow them to focus.
Casey, I appreciate being responsive to the needs of the kids, right? And being able to set up the best testing scenario for them and working with your team. Casey's plan had been vetted by the district office administrators, and we weighed in on it, and so I think we actually have a good plan. Trent and Kelly, thank you very much for your work on that, and Casey, those are really nice PowerPoint skills that you have. Those are pretty impressive.
That's Karen did well. Thank you, Karen. I also want to give a shout out to Amit Call. He was selected as the boys swimming and diving coach of the year yesterday, so very fortunate to have him on our team. He's a great teacher coach. Also give a shout out to John and Ted. They've been just fantastic to work with. I'm really gonna miss having you guys around.
Yeah, I think we're a good round of applause.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing, next is public comment, anyone wishing to speak? Was there somebody that signed up, you said?
Go ahead.
Yes, in your folder.
Is it my folder? I just knew earlier there wasn't. Okay, Mike, you still planning on speaking? Okay. Then I'll read this, what some people have said short, which is no way short. Any district staff member, district resident, parent of a district student, or a student enrolled in the district may comment during the public comment portion of the meeting per board policy 10167.3. For this meeting, the community may address the board during the public comment section of the meeting regarding agenda items under section 6 recommendations only, specifically A through I. These items include dust collector cleaning system, scaffolding around the rooftop, unit number 5 of high school, lifting hoist for the tech theater program, the classroom sound amplification system at Parkview and Thorson, the repeater installation at Cedarburg High School, the district library plan, the Webster Middle School math resources, the district safety, school safety plan, and donations. Individuals making public comment are not immune from liability during public comments and can be held liable for defamation or false claims. In the past, the state attorney general issued guidance on how governmental bodies, such as school boards, should conduct the public comment portion of their meeting. This guidance was given to assist government bodies in avoiding violations of the state's open meetings law. The essence of the open meetings law guidance is that unless a topic is brought forward to the board, is publicly noticed, no significant discussion can be held on that item. Instead, the topic may be listed on an item of a future meeting agenda, whereby discussion could be held then. The reason for the Attorney General's guidance is to ensure that all interested parties have equal opportunity and advance notice to participate in discussions with the full board per board policy 0167.3. The board has the authority to determine if public comment may be taken and, if allowed, on what portion of the agenda comments will be received. For tonight's meeting, those items listed on the agenda under section 6, which I previously stated, is open dialogue may occur between the individuals from the public and board members. Per school board policy 0144.2, the board will respect the confidentiality of information that is privileged under applicable law. This includes but is not limited to information under current or imminent litigation and/or student-specific information per board policy 8330. If your item is not listed on tonight's agenda under section 6, and you want to have the discussion regarding the topic, you are encouraged to contact the district superintendent and request that the item be listed on a future agenda for public comment. As always, you are encouraged to contact board members outside the meeting setting with your comments or concerns. Please note school board policy, school board members are limited to public engagement via email as noted in policy 0167.5. Please make your comments to the board and not any individual in the audience. As per board policy 0167.3, each statement made by a participant may not exceed 3 minutes in duration. Please note that this is a public meeting and we ask everyone to address one another with courtesy and respect you would like to receive in return. When you approach the microphone, please state your name, your address. Please state the agenda item A through I that you're commenting on. If you're under the age of 18 and are a student of Cedarburg schools, you only need to state your first name. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the district's website. Mike, go ahead.
Let's take that longer.
Yeah, I think it keeps getting longer.
So my name is Mike Maher, W69 N425 Fox Point Avenue here in Cedarburg. I will be commenting on items F, the district library plan, and item I, the donations. So one of my passions is advocacy for libraries. And when I saw the district library plan, I was excited to go through it. I was kind of hoping for more information, so I just want to make some comments, some concerns. I saw that a licensed library media person will be designated for the district. My question is basically around the support model for the library media person. I'm just curious, are we gonna have staffing at each of the 5 libraries? One of my main concerns is the potential burden that's placed on individuals that might have to cover multiple schools. Also the potential lack of coverage at a school. This community made a very large investment in our school system, and as part of that investment, we made updates to 4 of the 5 libraries at each school, and my hope is that that is utilized and protected. I don't want to see that go to waste. Regarding donations, so I would just like to publicly thank Malachi Matters, Cedarburg Threads, and the Ritchie family for their donation that will support the Cedarburg High School Best Buddies program, the Bridge Builders Club, and the Gay Straight Alliance Club. It is reassuring to know that there are people in the community, a lot of them, but we could always use more, that continue to support fundraising efforts that hopefully will lift spirits up of the kids in the student acceptance team at Webster Middle School, knowing that they have financial support for similar clubs at the Cedarburg High School. Thank you.
Alan, do you want to answer, if you had a question about the support model? Can you just answer that?
Glad to.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, no problem. So, under the current staffing restraints, we do staff our libraries at about 1.6 librarian positions. So 1 full-time librarian and another one at 0.6, and they do have oversight over multiple buildings. We guarantee that every library is open throughout the day and that there are aides in the library that are trained and supported by the librarians to keep services strong and aligned with the curriculum. So it is staffed, and many years ago, the system, due to financial restraints, had to reduce the overall library programming. So within those restraints, we've worked hard, and I think the library plan supports our efforts to really be diligent to provide great services for kids.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Kate Dirksen, Glenwood Drive in Cedarburg. A through E, I was at the board and grounds meeting for those. I think that's an easy approval. They're all necessary to protect the investment that was made when the renovations were done. But I do have some questions about H, the school district safety plan. Now, I did some research and I looked at the DOJ website and found kind of the basic checklist that the districts have to go through. But then I also did some looking into their OSS, or Office of School Safety. And being that the safety plan was not itemized in PDF on the agenda, I don't really know what's in there. But I was going to ask, how much of the school safety plan has been worked over with CPD, because obviously the SRO and CPD, if there is, a large enough threat, would provide, protection or what we need. What is there as far as school-based threat assessments? Do we have any behavioral intervention teams at the various schools? Do we have input from the medical health professionals, mental health professionals we have working in the various schools? My concern is, are we planning more for what to do when something happens? Or do we have a robust enough plan to make sure that we are able to intervene if a situation were to arise with a student or groups of students? And that also, includes bullying. How do we handle those things? So are there specific steps or plans that when something happens, we know X, Y, and Z happens next? These are the people who are involved in handling those things, and then, how much in the loop is CPD?
So to answer the first one, CPD is very involved. We actually had an outside consultant come in a few years ago, and multiple members of the police department from the chief on down were actually interviewed, and our school resource officer and school liaison officers are part of the planning, and also CPD comes in when we do some of our testing and our trials. So they are very involved, and I know that because I used to work there. Who wants to handle the other ones? John, Ted?
Well, from the police department standpoint, we had Michael Dorn from Jane's Security come in, do a thorough investigation. We were given a booklet about that thick with which to check through, and overall, we passed with flying colors. Anything that we didn't was on that checklist, and we worked backwards to take care of all those that were necessary. There were some things that really didn't apply to us, so we didn't, but everything is documented, we have all that information, and for the most part, we've done all of them. To include numbering of windows, so they're highlighted in classrooms, so the police department would show up, they could shine it, they're all illuminated, so if they hit it with their light, the fire department sees all of that. A litany of other things that were done in concert with the recommendations from Michael Dorn. He's world renowned, he's trained in Israel to America to, it's a robust inspection of our system. We meet with the police department annually to review our plan, and basically they're involved with it and they live it along with us. And we do have quarterly safety committee meetings with which we review, and we have also groups that break off, and each one has responsibilities. So it starts really
the
with our
police
safety.
department sits on the safety committee.
They're on it, yeah, we have a meeting tomorrow, in fact, and our safety committee meets, one of our quarterly meetings happens to be tomorrow. Police department will be there
And
as
fire
well as, and fire department, yeah.
And we also follow all the Office of School Safety protocols in terms of school threat assessment, behavior intervention, all down in terms of any protocols, when something happens, to follow up after.
So is there anywhere on the CSD website where we can find the listing of
No.
the protocols?
So
No.
Well,
that, some of that is
obviously
by
nothing
No,
that's
and
going-
intentionally.
right.
Well, I know, and nothing that would endanger
Yep.
safety, but in
Yep.
terms of if there is behavioral intervention and someone would need to notify the school district, of what the steps are to handle those things, or who to speak with, because I know there has been concerns in the community of things that have, some people feel have been shrugged off. My concern is making sure that we're putting in just as much effort to stop potential threats as we do with all the work that's been done towards, something's happening. It's great that all that's planned out, never need to use that.
And it is more than just physical plant, and Ted's involved with a lot of that.
So this particular item this is Act 142, I think it is.
143.
Oh, 143, and so this is an item that annually we have to bring forward to the board for approval, and it includes all of our active shooter, threat kind of assessments, everything that
Bomb
falls
threat,
under
gas
there.
leaks, fire.
I think part of our ability to be proactive and to allow students to report to us situations that occur through our tip line, and that's available. So when you said people don't feel as if there's maybe an entry point, that is simply an entry point for us. We also, just from a IT standpoint, we continue to there's an algorithm that monitors our in-house documents, if you will, and emails and those types of things. So we actually pick up on words that may leave, that could be a threatening word or phrase. And then it alerts the administrators, and then we can respond to that. So there are quite a few reactionary type things and proactive pieces to our safety assessment. This act doesn't necessarily get into those kind of details that you're questioning about. This is truly about an active shooter type, and it was put in place probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think 5 or 6, yeah. And it's just the plan needs reviewed and approved by the board every year.
But we are doing the other items, so that's why I asked.
So do we have behavioral intervention teams at the schools?
We do, each building has them.
Each building has them, okay.
Yep. But it's outside the plan, but just so you know, we do that, so. And truthfully, the plan is not put out there for that reason. I mean, you don't, the consultant was big on that. You don't wanna tell everybody what your plan and how you do things, because that just makes it easier for them to circumvent your plan. So, it makes our kids unsafe, and we don't want that. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for attending the Building and Grounds Committee meeting too.
It was fun. It was.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to recommendations.
Excellent, we have a number of recommendations. The first 5 are actually come out of the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and John is going to speak to those items.
So these first 5 items that we have on here were vetted by the Building and Grounds Committee. These are items that we've really kicked around for the duration of this project, for the most part. If you can imagine, with all the people in here and all the wants and desires and needs, there's hundreds of them. And so we winnow this down, and we've come up with a group of these that we feel are the most important. And then we act on it and we present it to the Building and Grounds Committee. And quite frankly, there were probably 15 of them in there, 10 of them in there. We winnowed it down to 5, so, of the most important. Doesn't mean the other ones go away, it just means at this point in time, we're not asking for approval. Okay? So the first one will be a dust collector. We have a robust dust collector system. That particular system is a complete manual operation outside of the building. So there's large socks in there that collect the dust. We need to have an automated system that scrubs those socks and drops the dust down so that we can then dispose of that, as opposed to going up there and trying to clean that out. And I've always said this, that if you make it easy to take care of and maintain it, it will get done. If you don't, and you make it difficult to do it, it tends to get neglected. We don't want to ever get in the mode of neglecting. And the more difficult it is, the more difficult it will be to take care of it. So we're asking for the automated scrubbers, for the vibrators, for the dust socks, and that cost is $6,648. $6,648. And I'll go through all of these. So, or do you want to approve them?
You want John to go through all 5 and then approve consent, or you want to do individual approvers?
I'm fine if somebody wants to make a motion on all 5. The committee's reviewed it, we had the ability to look at the information for the meeting. So.
Sure, okay.
I do have a question though. So like, or do you want to do questions after you're done with all of them?
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, it's on the second one. So
Okay.
I wasn't sure to do this. So you just want to
Just ask the question, and
Sure.
if there's questions, John can address it. Otherwise,
Well, I may hit it when I speak to it. So, we'd like to take action on scaffolding around rooftop unit number 5. Rooftop unit number 5 is the HVAC unit that sits above the kitchen. In design, it had to be elevated so we could put the ductwork underneath and keep it internal to the building. In doing that, we made that unit almost inaccessible without a ladder or some kind of a safety device. Again, we need to get at that unit, we need to repair it, we need to change filters, lubricate, oil it, clean out condensing coils, all those items that need to be taken care of. To do that from a ladder, first of all, would be extremely unsafe, especially in winter months and even in rainy season. Secondly, again, if you make it accessible and you make it easy to access and take care of, it's gonna get done on a regular routine. Not that our guys don't do it, but it's just human nature. So we discussed that at length in the Building Grounds Committee meeting. And Dave, the original proposal was for a permanent structure. Kevin recommended looking at another option. The permanent structure was about $32,000. This particular one is $12,000.
Question on that one?
Was it in the original proposal for the project or not?
No, because what ended up occurring was we had to make an adjustment to the height of the HVAC unit. So the design of it was such that it was supposed to be rooftop mounted, but we had to raise it up because the ductwork had to come underneath it.
Wouldn't they have figured that out when they were
Well,
doing the design?
It's one of those things that you learn while you're on it, and you're in it, and you're in the field. The actual roof level, the roof heights were not consistent. The two heights were not consistent. You go from one roof to the next roof, we had to bring that above the secondary roof. So there was a lot of engineering that went on once we identified that. And you wouldn't see that from the roof line. You had to get in there and rip it apart before you got into it. So once we ripped those apart, now if you can envision that, that was the old band room / activities room, which was inaccessible because it had spline ceilings, so you couldn't even get at it. So that's kind of how and why we're there.
Are all these items reflected in the update we got?
No,
earlier?
they are not.
Okay.
No,
that's
so
not
this would change that number to minus, I think the total I have here is $67,062.
Yeah, it's around 70.
Yeah.
So we've got, out of the, hopefully a couple million we wanted to return to the taxpayers, we've got $69,000 left, is that right?
I think it would be more than that. I think if my numbers are right here.
Well, until we do this, right?
No, it's
That's gonna come out.
$191,000 now. Yeah, it was 70,000, let's say.
Okay.
It'd be about 120,000.
Yeah.
All right.
So, to Kevin's point, I'm embarrassed myself, my house is construction. So, it's a working platform, so it's temporary?
No,
Or-
it would be a permanent structure,
Okay.
but it's of a scaffold nature as opposed to a welded structure that's on it.
Oh, I
It would be affixed to the unit,
Okay,
and it would be rigid, it would be tight.
Yeah.
It's just a more economical way of
Yeah.
doing it as opposed to building it on and having all that steel and
Yeah.
probably overbuilding it.
Yeah.
It's building it for our need. Our need is really to get 1 or 2 people up there
yeah,
5, 6, 7 times a year, as opposed to, having a picnic up there with 5, 6, 8 people. We don't need that, so it was a great suggestion by Kevin, and quite frankly, it saved, around $14,000, $16,000.
yeah.
And it'll still serve our purposes. Not to mention, instead of 270 degrees surrounding, it's 360 degrees. So we get to all 4 sides of it.
And Dave, kind of to your point, it's a good point that you brought up, and drawings are prepared and bid out by a contractor and subcontractors, but then there's something called shop drawings that are done, which are very detailed drawings by the tradespeople that do that for the duct, let's say, or this piece, and that's probably, I don't know for sure, but that's probably where this problem got identified, wait, we need to raise it up because we need to bring this ductwork underneath it. And that's done many months after the drawings have been priced out and bid out, and then there's some changes that sometimes occur because of that. It's just filling in all the details that weren't known before. It's pretty common, but it happens.
And we did labor over this. It was what seemingly was a high ticket for something that needed to be done. But realistically, we need to have that. It's almost like, in my opinion, it's almost like an OSHA guideline that we need to follow. We have to have something up there to be able to service this
I would think
safely.
the claim on our insurance if someone would fall on a ladder up there during the winter or something,
Oh.
as opposed to being safe,
Right.
is gonna be well in excess of what the cost of
Right.
it.
And we know what we've done with our mod factor right now, and we're in really, really good shape.
Not to mention you don't want some foam.
Right, plus we don't want an employee hurt, but I mean,
Well, yeah, no.
just from a cost,
The ancillary
You know,
effect of that is a great thing.
risk reward, to me, it
It's
looks
be up
like
there
it's,
permanently too, for decades.
Right.
right.
It's a one-time cost.
hoist. This was originally in the plan, and there were 3 of them that were scheduled to be in there. In perusing through this, we realized that was excessive. So what we are asking for is reducing that down to 1. Now, it's not in the cost because we removed it. All 3 of them were removed. And circling back, and after having a play, we realized the need for it. So we're asking for 1, and that should suit his needs. And that's for the tech theater folks to be able to raise up and be able to work on scenery and scenery prep, as opposed to casting it on the ground, stepping over it, moving around, and it's, again, another safe environment. It will be automated, so it would allow them to hook up, clamp onto it, and allow it to lift up without manually doing that. So it is an automated system.
What was the cost of that, John?
That particular item is $10,750. Next one is a sound amplification system. This came in afterwards. Parkview and Thorson. This is not for the new rooms, this is for our old rooms. We have an antiquated system, we need to add this to it, and it's like our sound field system. So when teachers are teaching, they have a lavalier on, and they're talking to students. The gain and the positive effect of having this is Parkview and Thorson where they don't have them, it's incredible when you walk by and you hear a teacher talking on that. The attention that they get and the students and how they pay attention. It's a request by the principals and by Kirsten, that we'd like to move forward with this. And this is a significant cost, but it would take care of us for years down the road. And what it does, it gives us consistency throughout the classroom. We have some classrooms with and some without, and it's really disproportionate.
And this would cover all the classrooms?
This will take care of all the classrooms at Parkview and Thorson. West Lawn has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that cost us $32,960.
That was my question.
We could get it for $59, I think, but
Can you?
yeah.
You work that out?
And what exactly is that?
It's a sound field system, so it's speakers in the ceiling, and it's a lavalier system with an amplification system for each classroom, and what it allows the teachers to is when they're talking, it projects their voice in a way that anyone who's hearing impaired, but more importantly, quite frankly, it attracts the attention of those who are just kind of not paying attention, right?
So we've had those in place prior to the project, and when the project was done, some of the rooms could not have the old system reconnected because of the way in which the room was remodeled, and so now there's inconsistency. And you can't just update the rooms that don't have it with the newer model, because it's an entire system that has to be upgraded.
And this would be a purchase, and we'd be installing this ourselves. The next and final item is a repeater system. This is for the police and fire department. We have some dead spots with the new facility and how the new facility capped off and covered over areas. We found some dead spots where there's not communication. That's pretty easy to understand why we need that. And for $4,754, that would cover our entire building. And we did have that tested. We went out and tested it with the police department and the fire department. So that would cover us here. It's primarily at the high school because of the magnitude of the referendum and the renovation.
One question on the hoist for the theater. Is there a lot of, what's maintenance on an automated hoist?
Really nothing. I mean, down the road, maybe a motor.
Yeah.
Right? But the motors they're self-lubricating. You don't have to oil them. You don't have to, there's no balancing of it. So it's like a fly system in the theater where you have the locks. We don't have to balance any of that. And that's what we're interested in. The manual one, you'd have to balance it. You'd have to make sure that whatever your load lifting is balanced by weights. You don't necessarily want to do that because somebody could put the wrong weights in and the thing slams down, now you got somebody getting hurt. So with the automated system, you just hook up to it, clamp onto it, raise it up, and then work on it.
Yeah. I guess my only concern is make sure they have budget if they need to repair, but much safer. So
That
I'm
would
excited
be
to see that, but.
way down the road, and it
Okay.
wouldn't be a
Plan
major
for it.
expenditure, yeah. It's similar to our PAC. We have, in the Performing Arts Center, we have probably 40 of them.
Yeah.
And we've never had to maintain those. We
Yeah,
just have to have,
so examples.
we have them checked every 5 years. We go through a safety check, which is required.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now these are gonna hit the bottom line that we talked about earlier, and then we're down to 120. Are we?
We're down to 124,708.
Good job. So So are we concerned of any additional hitting that? So we're not, I don't want to fall in negative.
No, I think our comfort level is becoming very clear.
Yeah,
I think at this point in time, we're not looking at any major expenditures that would come down the road for anything that,
Yeah.
you know. And quite frankly, some of those other ones that would come through, non-referendum type things, that's what I have my capital
Yeah.
improvement budget for, and that's why we would take those on.
which is exciting, right? Because this
Yeah.
is, these are items that could have also been delayed and delayed without that
Right.
opportunity, so.
Right.
I know that was part of the plan, and I know you mentioned earlier that you guys had to go through a list, I'm sure there's things that you wanted
Oh, yeah.
and didn't make it either. So-
And that list still exists, it
Yeah.
didn't go away, it's just hidden right now, so,
Yep.
we'll always revisit that, and we'll, as we do in our 10-year plan, our 10-year revision, we'll go through all of those items, and we'll make sure that we keep that on track and on board. Brian will learn that in a hurry.
Yeah.
Do you see how quick he was to spend your budget? Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about it, my budget. Yeah, I saw that.
Don't worry.
I'm hopeful that this is it. that we're done.
Right.
Yeah, we are hopeful.
You know, that there was items, other items on the list, but the committee didn't, you know, just feel the need to add those items, and these were the ones that we felt we bring forward, and we're done with the project.
We're done with it.
The hope of returning any significant money to the taxpayers is long gone, so.
Well, they're getting it back in their schools.
It's, well, the funding that we talked about, over the last year or two, but I don't think these few additions make any real significant difference. And they're good things.
So is there anyone that wants anything A through E separated out? Otherwise, I'd accept the motion to approve A through E.
I'll make a motion to approve items A through E and reduce our contingency to $124,708.
Second.
Discussion? Other than Dave, I agree with you. I wish we would have been able to have more funds to get back in tax relief, but unfortunately that project is consumed. But it didn't go over. There were a lot of school districts go over
Yeah.
significantly and then have to find those funds, so.
Well, we're
Could-
over that million.
Kudos to John and his team for keeping it still manageable. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Item F is the library plan. It has been to the curriculum committee twice. Once, and then we had some questions of staff that they took it back and brought it back to the next meeting. So I'll make a motion to approve the district library plan, which is a requirement of state statute.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. The next item is the Webster Middle School math resources. We had a great presentation by Webster staff. It's exciting that it dovetails well with the new materials at the grade school level. Bridges, so it's gonna be a great continuation. They have tested it in the classroom and really feel that this is the best choice. I did give them a little bit of a hard time telling them that our math scores have continually going up, so if they went down, no pressure. But with that being said, I'll move to approve the Webster Middle School math resources.
I'll second that, and to also add to your comments, it was a very impressive presentation, and the staff there, the two who were spearheading it, Ellen, what
What were their names?
Wendy Blank and
Wendy Blank.
Andrea Rosine.
I'm sorry? what?
Wendy Blank and Andrea Rosine.
Oh, Angela Rosie, yes, they did a fantastic job putting this together and then explaining it to us. And one of the things that I thought was really neat about it was, it focuses on doing math, learning math by doing math, but also critical thinking. There was a huge component of it, and they showed us some examples of the old, the old problem and the new problem, and it's night and day, and then hopefully it's gonna be a real nice, like Rick said, a nice continuation of the Bridges program. Thank you.
Yeah, they were definitely passionate about it, so it's great to see our teachers really passionate about, bringing it forward and explaining the justification for it. And challenging our kids and being able to have all kids challenged at all levels, not just where a kid sits back and can coast, it accelerates kids in different directions, so.
Right, that was the other thing, it seemed almost customizable.
Yes, yeah, the rigor.
No matter what level you were at, it was like a progression of rigor. It
Yep.
was really, yeah.
They said there was much more advanced than the previous, primary that they had. And sneak peek, there's some maybe in the, what is it, the freshman algebra, there's,
The same program, Illustrative Mathematics, provides an algebra class.
Yeah.
So that is potentially on the, on the horizon to at least consider. Something Webster Math Department offers for some eighth graders and also here at the high school.
Yeah.
So.
excited to hear it.
So will there be any difficulty between like a seventh grader going into this eighth grade program if it's a lot, if it's more difficult or?
There's a notable, I actually have observed, I've been in lessons where teachers have been teaching with the illustrative mathematics, so there's a rigor push. You can feel it just as a, putting myself as a seventh grader, like it was somewhat relentless, like just really increasing challenges, working together in partnerships, thinking on my own, trying to solve the problems, and then whole group discussion. So our students will rise up. So they've been through the Bridges system now multiple years, and they're coming into Webster, and Webster teachers are noticing the difference. So this is just going to pick up right where they left off, and any kind of transition, teachers will accommodate those.
And they were testing them this year already, materials, so those kids have already experienced that, so they could see that it was the best before we expended money to buy the materials.
Yeah, that's all the same model we did with Bridges. So there were two programs that we pre-vetted before we even had teachers consider them. And once those met the criteria, then those both were trialed. And teachers worked together with a math consultant from the Math Institute of Wisconsin to create a rubric to actually grade or assess both resources. And illustrative mathematics came out the highest.
I think if you remember the what is similar in terms of what they're teaching when, it's more of the how is being taught and then how they can elevate it or even meet students at their level. And I think too, like the Bridges connection will help so it won't feel that tremendous to the students to be able to do it with that sort of critical thinking aspect.
Correct.
It'll ramp up more.
Yeah, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? If not, there's a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Awesome.
Alan, thank you for your hard work, and can you please get back to the teachers and thank them for their presentation and hard work on it?
The next item is the approval of the district school safety plan. Ted, I don't know if you have any comments on it. It's 143, it's annual approval.
Correct, yeah, it's nothing new, it's just we update that annually, and continue to keep it fresh. It's required every 3 years to be approved by the board and uploaded into the Office of School Safety portal. Like Mr. Costa had spoken about, it's reviewed thoroughly by the CPD, Cedarburg Fire Department as well, so there's lots of hands, lots of eyes on it, and it's a living document always.
On the approval?
Second.
Motion, a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Excellent. The last item that the board would need to approve are a number of recommendations. I believe we have 9 this evening. The first is a donation in the amount of $2,000 from the Cedarburg Performing Arts Center and the Visiting Artist Series. This donation will be used for student admission to the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra concert tomorrow at 1:20 in our CPAC. The next donation is in the amount of $534 from Crystal Dasso, doing business as Malachi Matters. This donation will be used to support the Cedarburg High School Gay Straight Alliance Club. Number 3, a donation of the amount of $2,091.53 from Cedarburg Threads. This donation will be used to support Cedarburg High School Best Buddies program. Next donation in the amount of $2,091.53 from Cedarburg Threads. This donation will be used to support the Cedarburg High School Bridge Builders program. Next, a donation of $532.94 from Cedarburg Threads. This donation will be used to support the Cedarburg High School Gay Straight Alliance Club. The next donation in the amount of $749.59 from Lori Dennis Ritchie. This donation will be used to support the Cedarburg High School Gay Straight Alliance Club. Next is a donation in the amount of $2,580 from the Cedarburg Basketball Club. This will be used to support the high school girls basketball program. Next, a donation in the amount of $6,541 from the Cedarburg Boosters Club. This will be used to support the Cedarburg High School athletic programs. And the last donation in the amount of $500 from Special Olympics Wisconsin Incorporated. This donation will be used to support the Webster Middle School Best Buddies program. We'd ask that all the donations be approved, totaling the amount of $17,620 and $17,620.59.
I have a question, Todd. So it says Cedarburg Threads, is that from?
Cedarburg Threads,
Right, is that a?
that's a business,
A business?
a business in town,
So
correct?
it's going from Cedarburg Threads Incorporated, or we might want to be technical about that? I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I think that's the name of the business, the Cedarburg Threads.
Yeah, there's a store, right?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry, yes, it's a business. It's a, Brenda, help me, I think it's a t-shirt business, yeah.
Cedarburg Feds LLC.
Okay,
Okay.
There you go.
Cedarburg Threads, all right.
Thank you, Dave.
Is there a motion?
So moved to approve donations totaling $17,620.59.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's motion, second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Building and grounds, Kevin, anything to report that we didn't cover?
We had a meeting this week. We just looked at just various options for the south parking lots, at the south side of the school, in front of the main entrance and in front of the field house. Didn't come to any consensus on any redesign there. There's some thoughts about how to, if we should redesign that layout so how buses would access the space. And I guess there is currently an issue, or there is an issue with parents and people stopping kind of at the side to pick up students as everyone comes out of the school, so they block views down towards Evergreen. And they're trying to solve that. Like, how can we make this safe when the kids come out of school at the end of the day, that they aren't crossing between the cars? That was really the discussion topic, and we didn't send anything to the board. We looked at it option and didn't really advance that.
Curriculum, the other thing we didn't cover is Global Scholars. The trip to South Africa is off because of the nature of the virus and things right now. So they are looking at a couple different options, kind of polling the kids, parents, the tour company to find out what they feel they can do safely. And then they'll be coming back to curriculum with that. It will need them to come to the board again because it will be a separate, different trip than what we previously approved. So you'll see it on a future agenda.
Yeah, I think the main concern was where can they go and not be potentially canceled, due to travel restrictions.
And they had some interesting options, so it'll be good to see. Is there, Kevin, anything else from building and grounds, because you have 2 meetings listed?
No, I covered the other items tonight with the additional.
Then now I'll take a motion to adjourn into executive session to consider financial, medical, or social or personal histories of disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary considerations of specific personnel problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons except where per B applies, which is discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations pursuant to 19.85 sub 1F of the Wisconsin statutes. Also, executive session for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategies to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved pursuant to 19.851G of Wisconsin statute, pupil discrimination complaint, curriculum discrimination complaint. Executive session to conduct specific public business, whereas competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session to pursuant to 19.851E of the Wisconsin statute, the superintendent hiring process. Executive session to consider employment or promotion compensation, performance evaluation data of any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility pursuant to 19.851C of the Wisconsin state statute, administrative contracts. And then we will adjourn into open session where it's anticipated the board may reconvene in open session to take action on one or more of the executive session items. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.